Well, hello, my inky friends. It's Cindy Lynn with my Inky Fingers Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Calgary, Alberta. I have this beautiful new catalog. I got it last week on Monday, and of course, I had to go through and flag with pink and purple all the stamp sets that I have, and then I had to flag in green all the stamp sets I want, and in red are all the stamp sets that I absolutely have to have. So for today's card, I chose a card out of that catalog. Now, I will tell you about that in a sec, but I wanted to mention the embossing buddy, gone, hasta la vista, gone forever, bye-bye. So I'm going to use my EK Success destatification tool because this doesn't get all on my fingers, and I love that. I don't have any dust on my fingers. So I'm going to use my Versamark, and I'm going to ink up the rose from To a Wild Rose and two of the sentiments, and I'm going to put some gold embossing powder on those, and then I'm going to heat set those until they're nice and melted and smooth and dry. Now, this card is from page 15 of the 2021 catalog. Wait until you guys see it. I've got an unboxing coming this week. I ordered an obscene amount of pre-order stuff. You guys are going to love it. Anyhow, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to cut off a little bit of this paper just where the rose is because I don't want to get my coloring on the sentiment. So I'm going to pull out my trusty little container I got at the dollar store, and I cut a sponge in there, and I keep it nice and damp just to clean off my aqua painter. It goes a little quicker than just rubbing it there on the paper towel. So I'm going to add a little bit of water to the Daffodil Delight. Now, I want to make sure that I have a decent hue there. I don't want it too dark, but I don't want it too light. So I'm going to slow this down and show you what I do. And I'm pretty much just going to do the whole rose just with the ink that is on my aqua painter. Now, these aqua painters, if you guys get lucky, you might be able to get them on clearance on a discounted price because they're going out the door. They've got new aqua painters coming. So excited. They're so pretty. I can't wait to see them. Anyhow, for coloring the rose, I'm going to color wherever the petals touch the center or touch another petal, leaving the tips of each petal completely white for right now. I'm going to go back and I'm just going to wipe off some of my, now I'm wiping it off, but I'm zoomed in so you can't see, but I'm wiping off some of the ink just so that it's a little lighter than the first color of ink. And this is just a really messy, sloppy watercolor. There's a term for it. I can't think of it right now. Loose. That's it. Loose. It's a very loose watercolor. I don't want it to look fancy schmancy and perfect because the star of the show is going to be your spray that you're going to do on here and your embossing, right? So I'm going to grab the leaf out of that To a Wild Rose with my Mossy Meadow, ink it up. I'm going to stamp that 3 times on another piece of cardstock. Now, these are just random pieces of cardstock, whatever you've got on hand for your Whisper White. I'm going to clean that off with my Simply Chamois, and then I'm going to bring out my aqua painter again, clean it up, and I'm going to dilute some of that ink. Now, if you don't have re-inkers, just depress your lid in the very center into the ink pad, and you should be able to pick some up in the lid there. So you'll be able to get some ink so you can paint. Now I'm diluting that and I'm bringing in a little bit more color until I think I've got the right hue. And I'm going to rinse and repeat the same process we did on the rose. So wherever the veining is and the very center vein of that leaf, I want to make sure that I've got some pretty dark color in there. Not too dark, because if you go too dark, it's hard to blend it off because you're just doing this on regular Whisper White cardstock, not the thick, just the regular everyday Whisper White. So it's not going to blend the same as it does with watercolor. So you want to be gentle with the darkness of your ink. So I just wiped a little off there, and I'm just going to go in. And you know, if there's a little white showing, no big deal. You want it to look a little rustic. It's a very loose watercolor. So once I've got those all watercolored up, I'm going to grab the coordinating dies, the rose and the leaf, and then I'm going to run those through my Big Shot. And now I'm going to show you how to mix up your splatter. Your Stampin' Spritzer is going to be perfect here. And I squeezed in about a 1/4 inch of the, I want to say Blackberry Bliss. And I want to say Blackberry Bliss because I'm right. Now, I did add a little bit of water there, and only enough to barely have 3/4 of an inch of liquid there in your spritzer. So I'm going to zoom right in, and I'm spraying towards the bottom of the paper, and I've got that on an angle. And as you can see, I used my trusty sprays and splatter box, but the bottom, which is the top lid, I kind of put it up in the back there so I didn't get any overspray. I accidentally, when I was testing this, sprayed it, and my spritzer was facing the wrong way and everything was purple. It was crazy. Anyhow, this tufted 3D embossing folder is also going out the door. It's retiring, and I am such a fanatic with making sure that I've got that exactly lined up where I want it. As you can see, I played with that quite a bit, but I'm going all out with Blackberry Bliss here. As you guys can see, it's not very often that I make a card that's got a colored background. So I'm going all out because this is pretty much exactly like it was in the catalog, and I can't wait for you guys to see the catalog. So I trimmed that the Whisper White that I splattered to 4 by 3.5. And now I'm just kind of laying everything out here. And I was going to use my pencil, but I'm going to come in with a Sharpie. And I'm just going to make these little dots everywhere that I want to emboss. And you're probably thinking, Cindy Lynn, what are you doing, girl? But don't worry, I got you. Because when you emboss, you're not even going to see all of these Sharpie markers whatsoever, Sharpie mark dots. You're not going to see them, I promise. So I'm going to pull out the center of this would be the center that would go in the rose, but we're going to make some dots with it. So I'm going to pull out my gold embossing powder. Now, if you want to, you can do this one by one, and I'm going to show you, I'm going to do it one by one, and wait till you see, I'll make the biggest mistake here. After I had done splattering this, I turned off my camera and I went and had dinner. Todd ran to the store and made pizza, and he made, I was going to say made dinner, but I had dinner. So went downstairs, had dinner, came back up. I thought, this thing is totally dry. It felt dry, and it was not dry. And you're going to see a huge problem here in a second, but I'm going to tell you how to fix it. So you can do them one by one, or you can just kind of stamp them all off at the top and then, do a whole bunch at a time. And then I got to the bottom, and can you see that? OMG. So here's a tip. Before you put your embossing powder on here, before you destaticify it, before you put anything on here, no Versamark, nothing, go in and just cover it in embossing powder and see if it all falls off. If it's got a few stragglers, put some destatification tool on it and then see how it turns out, because this was clearly still wet, and even though I destatified it, that embossing powder stuck all over. Now, I was able to get my paintbrush in there and kind of fix it, so it didn't turn out to ruin my day, thank God, but nevertheless. So you probably noticed I left one of those little Sharpie thingies on there. I'm going to hide it. You won't see it. Don't worry. Nevertheless, I'm going to lay all of this out here just to kind of get an eyeball. Now, I'm kind of stepping out of my comfort zone, and I'm angling that splattered piece there in the background. I don't like angles. Now, take a photo with your phone so that you've got a visual there, and then we're going to trim the sentiment, and I'm going to zoom in here so you can see I'm lining up the sentiment there with the plastic acrylic thing on the top of my trimmer, and I'm just kind of eyeballing it, and it turned out perfect. So I'm going to use my snips just to snip the ends off, because I'm pretty confident I can get those straight. And then for the grateful, we're going to cut off the whole word for and, because we just want grateful to know you. We don't want the and in there. So I'm going to pull out some foam strips, and I'm going to pull out some dimensionals, just going through my drawer, trying to find what little scraps I have left before I have to pull out a new one. And I'm just going to line the sentiment up there and eyeball it where I've got to cut it with my snips. And I'm going to go 2 foam strips wide on the back of both of these sentiments. And I only go maybe 1/8 of an inch shy on the ends, because I don't need these strips to go right to the end, right? And again, I'm going to use an absurd amount of dimensionals there on the back of the rose. I'm going to put my multi-purpose glue on my embossed background and do my corners, because I don't want no dog ears on my corners. I don't want those to lift up. I'm going to stick my F block on there for 30 seconds. And of course, I cut that out for you. And then I'm going to get this all glued down here now. And again, as I was doing this, it was like, it was driving me crazy to have this angled. Tell me what you think. Do you like this angled, or should it have been straight? Because you can't see the actual cased card because I'm not allowed to show you the inside of the catalog, right? So I can't even show you the card. So that's crazy sauce. But anyway, tell me if you like it angled like this. And then when I do the sentiment, I'm going to tell you why I did the sentiment the way I did. And that's important with how you put your sentiment, right? So I didn't take a picture, so I had to lay everything out there again. And now I'm just kind of eyeballing, and I thought I was going to go with the top leaf, and I decided, no, better start with the bottom leaf. And I'm just positioning them so that they don't hang off the card because the mat is glued down to the A2 size card, right? So I want it to be able to sit on someone's table or wherever they're going to display it. Hopefully they display it. Anyway, wherever they put it, I want it to be able to sit there nice and smooth. So once the leaves, I had those down, I put my F block on there again for another 30 seconds. And now I'm going to do my sentiment strips. And the thing with the sentiment strips is I had to have the To Know You straight, but I wanted the Grateful to angle the same angle as, see there, as the background. So you got to tell me what you think in the comments below. Did the sentiment balance off the crickety background with the splatter and the dots? I don't know. I think it kind of balanced it off, but you tell me what you think. And until I see you again, take care and happy stamping.